Hey guys, it's Eddie and I am back today with another movie review for you all. This movie that we will be reviewing today is just the most phenomenal movie I think I've watched in a long time. I waited far too long to watch it, I admit that, but now I have. I think I can safely say that this movie is amazing, and it is, of course, There Will Be Blood, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, starring Daniel Day-Lewis and Paul Dano. I can't do names. But yeah. And this movie centres around the life and times of Daniel Plainview, played by Daniel Day-Lewis, and it's just gripping from start to finish. I'm just going to go right into the analysis of this movie because I just want to gush about it, really. I think this is definitely going to be one of those movies and one of these reviews where I just praise the movie. I literally have nothing negative to say, but there we go. I think what shines in this movie is obviously Daniel Day-Lewis's acting in the Plainview role. I think, you know, he has that really prosperous beginning in that really suspenseful, you know, first couple of scenes where he first sort of gets the oil, discovers it, and, you know, his business sort of begins and takes off, and, you know, it's a really amazing, promising start for his character. And I think the sort of slow decline of the movie is the perfect depiction of the harsh realities of life. And I think Daniel Day-Lewis's acting is so just exquisite, and we really see the sort of rise and fall of this character, and the character itself is so complex. It's just wonderful to see, and I think Day-Lewis just handles Plainview brilliantly, makes the character completely his own, and yet at the same time he's somehow unrecognisable as Daniel Day-Lewis in the role. He is completely, you know, within this character, and it's just brilliant. He's very sort of blunt and harsh, but at the same time he has this really sort of complex but initially really loving relationship with his son. I think the relationship with his son, HW, is actually a really exquisite thing to watch. It's very turbulent. It starts off really lovely, but yeah, it sort of goes downhill, and it's really sad to see how it all turns out in the end. And I think the fact that you are so sort of overwhelmed by how these characters turn out is just testament to the absolute genius of this movie. It is so gripping, so emotional, and you just are sort of absolutely overwhelmed with the need to see how these characters end up, especially, you know, in the situation that they're in. And even though everything sort of turns out all right financially, there is still these breaking of bonds, and, you know, people just sort of descend into, you know, really sad times in this movie, and it's sad to see when you followed these characters from the very start. But what I like about this movie is that I don't think you can actually truly like a character. I think even Plainview, even though he's our sort of protagonist, he is very complex, and I didn't come out of the film absolutely loving and adoring his character, because I think the story is so raw and human that it shows both the pitfalls and the successes of his character. So I don't think you can truly love him, I don't think you can truly hate him, you just have to go along with the story, and I think that's what's so clever about this film. And yet we also have at the end, what I got from this film was sort of, even though in the end there's this sad demise, there's also a sort of moral triumph for Plainview against the character Eli, who is sort of the prophet of the town and constantly tries to manipulate Plainview to get him into the church. And there's this famous scene where, which is quite humiliating for Plainview, where he gets him in the church so that he can allow his oil rig to run through a certain area of land. He sort of blackmails him. And so he gets on his knees and he tells him, you know, you abandon your child. You abandon your child. Because earlier in the movie we see that Plainview, after an accident that leaves his son deaf, he sends his son away to a special school, and you know, you can see he sort of doesn't want to do it, but he leaves his child by himself. And Daniel Day-Lewis as Plainview sort of screams that I abandoned my child, and Eli, played by Paul Dano, I forgot to say that, proceeds to slap him across the face. And it's all very humiliating, but we forget that earlier in the film, you know, after the horrible thing that's happened to his son, you know, Plainview basically slaps Eli, beats him, you know, presses him into the mud, saying, you know, how come this happened to my son? If you and your God were so prevalent, you could have stopped it, and all of this. He's just kind of sick of his bullshit in a way, or that's how he sees it anyway. But yeah, there's this whole revenge thing going on between them, and in the end, at the very end, we get that sense of Plainview's revenge, even though it's not a true revenge because he's in such a sad situation himself. It's just one of those films that is just, you don't know who's won. You don't know who's right, you don't know who's wrong. You can form your own opinions, but the movie is just so clever and so complex, and that's what I absolutely love about it. I think from Paul Thomas Anderson there is some fantastic direction. I think one of my favourite shots in the film was when after the oil rig explodes, which is consequently the accident that leaves his son deaf, you see Plainview carrying his son to safety, and it's just a continuous shot following them, running, and it lasts for a fair while, but that suspense that it builds, it's truly gripping and shocking, and you're sort of stunned by it all. I think the direction is just so clever. I love it. It's fantastic. I think it is possibly one of the finest examples of Daniel Day-Lewis being the best actor alive, as is my opinion. It definitely showcases his just amazing method acting abilities, and in that famous end scene where he's sort of confronting Eli face to face, he's talking down to him and he's saying, you know, I drink your milkshake, I drink it up. That quote is delivered with such force, and it's just so, you could just see this character that is sort of almost at the brink of being unhinged, but at the same time he holds this power over Eli, he gets his own back, and just the way that Day-Lewis delivers those lines is just phenomenal. I remember, like, I was watching it and my mouth was just open the entire time, like I just couldn't believe it. The acting was so brilliant, I was totally absorbed. And of course the ending, I'm not going to tell you what happens, but of course it is very shocking. And it ends so abruptly with such a fantastically sort of simple and sort of grotesquely funny line that it kind of makes you take a step back. And I remember after the film finished, I was just sat there for a good 5 minutes afterwards, just like, oh my god. I'd been so absorbed by this movie. It was just so amazing to watch. I'm so glad I've seen it because, and I would definitely recommend that anyone watches this movie. It's fantastic. You know, the beginning is a little slow, you might need a little bit of time to get into it, but I must tell you, it's completely worth it. I adore this film, and I literally have nothing bad to say about it. I told you guys that this would be a terrible example of my critiquing skills, if I have any. That sounded really big-headed because I literally don't. But yeah, it was kind of the worst film to review because I don't have anything bad to say. It was just fantastic. And with that being said, you guys probably know this already, but if I had to give it a rating out of 5 stars, it would be 5 stars. I think it's just it's just a perfect movie, and I would definitely recommend that anybody, whoever you are, give it a try, because it will surprise you, it will grip you. It's just enthralling, and I adored it. So that is my very gushy, full of praise take on There Will Be Blood. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you've seen the film, please post your opinion below. I'd love to see what you guys think about it. And if you have any other movies you want me to review, please just let me know, comment below, or message me on my Tumblr, and I will of course try my very best to review those for you and get back to you. But with that, I will sign off, and I hope to see you in the next review. Bye!